watching Head to Head. I'm Antonina Antosha with UATV. The division of powers is one of the most fundamental principles of modern democracy. It ensures that one ideology or group cannot control the entire government. Recent legislative changes in Poland have sought to undermine that principle. For a more detailed talk on the topic, we're joined via Skype today by Sergei Gerasimchuk. He's the deputy head of Ukraine's Council for Foreign Policy. Hello, Mr. Gerasimchuk. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
So, to give our viewers a full picture, could you please briefly explain the main peculiarities of the judicial reform that Polish government is trying to implement?
The main idea of the Polish judicial reform was to make some steps in order to subordinate the judiciary power to the parliament and to the president. The reform was aimed at a few significant steps. First, it was the power of the prosecutors to have an influence on appointing the judges, and also the parliament was planning to appoint new judges of the Supreme Court. The reform was definitely criticized from Brussels, because in Brussels the European Commission believes that such steps are not democratic, and in fact they undermine the principle of the division of power.
Speaking of European Commission, its members have already threatened Polish government that if the reform is fully implemented, they plan to invoke Article 7. What does that mean?
That's true. The point is that here we have to differentiate two lines of conflict. First, it's the conflict between the EU and Poland as the member state.
Mm-hmm.
And second, that's a conflict between Donald Tusk, former Prime Minister of Poland, who is currently heading the EU, and Jarosław Kaczynski, who is the head of Prawo and Sprawiedliwość political party, which is in power in Poland. So on the one hand, the EU is criticizing the government. On the other hand, Kaczynski is emphasizing all the time that it's a very personally driven approach, and that's Tusk who is trying to influence Poland. Recently, after the decision of President Duda to veto the initiative of the parliament, and after people in the streets, the Prime Minister of Poland, Beata Szydło, already said that that's the plot of European Commission, of the West, of Donald Tusk and George Soros against Poland. So they are trying to proceed with the reform, and there are high chances they will make it.
But if the judicial reform is fully implemented in Poland, how would it, what impact would it make on the relations between Poland and the other European member states?
There are very high chances that first Poland will lose its right to vote within the EU. So its power of a member state will be limited. And second, there is also high probability that Poland will lose full access to the European funds, which it has now as a member state.
And the fact that the acting president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, actually vetoed 2 of the 3 controversial laws does not help Poland in this situation?
Well, so such move was welcomed by the EU. However, there is still a majority of Prawo and Sprawiedliwość in both Senate and Sejm of the Republic of Poland. So there is a high probability that the parliament will try to overcome veto after the vacations in fall this year.
The European Commission gave the Polish government only 1 month to cope with the situation. Has there been any actions taken so far in that direction?
Well, since we are approaching the dead season both in the EU and in Poland, I mean dead political season, because both European
Thanks for clarifying that.
I mean both Commission and government and Parliament go for vacations. I think that the final decision anyway will be postponed till September. And as for now, when Poland is still in a kind of hanging situation, could this reform turmoil
have any impact on the relations between Ukraine and Poland?
Well, actually, the very fact of tensions between President Duda and Mr. Kaczynski is a good sign for Ukraine, I believe, because
Why
it
so?
shows that there are different views in province Sprawiedliwość at the relations with the neighbors. And on the one hand, we have orthodox and quite harsh approach of Prime Minister Szydlo, of Minister Waszczykowski, of Minister Macierewicz. On the other hand, now we see that there is an alternative, and this alternative can be provided by the President Duda and his vision of relations. And he is much more friendly to Ukraine in comparison to Kaczynski and Waszczykowski, and he visited Ukraine. And I think that the fact that he performed as a person which is not fully subordinated to Kaczynski gives more chances to our bilateral relations.
That is so interesting. Again, if the judicial reform in Poland is implemented, right now the statistics shows that the level of trust of citizens of Poland into the judiciary system is really, really low. If the reform is implemented, could that change? Could the level become higher?
I guess if it will be implemented in the way that was suggested by the government and the ruling political party, it will become even lower.
Okay, well, thank you so much for such an interesting conversation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
That was Sergei Gerasimyuk. He is the deputy head of Ukraine's Council for Foreign Policy. I'm Antonina Antosha. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.